Hey guys, it's Bui.
And Sthefon.
And in this video, we're going to update everyone on what we've done over the past 3 days. So first and foremost, Randy was able to knock out some animations. And this is going to be the preliminary animation for the player pressing the lift button, right? When they inevitably leave the game and they go down the elevator, right? It's still very primitive at this stage, right? But we believe that Randy did this so that he can have a reference for how he wants to do his workflow in Unreal Engine and in Blender, right? So then Randy started to get a lot better, right? Now we have a proper snap when the player presses on the button, right? And then it gets even a little better, right? A little more realistic, but the only problem with this one is that the player retracts his hand way too fast, right? So after Randy fixed this, he moved on to this full animation. This is the first memory essentially. It's a part of it, right? We still have a walking scene that we're going to see in a bit, but it's the first animation nonetheless. And for us, we believe this is a very big milestone because essentially the game is, I think, 3 animations, right, Sthefon, or is it 4?
Yeah, it's 3 animation. 1 in the living room, and then the kitchen, and then lastly at the elevator.
Yes. So then this gets refined even further. He was just showing us how things are working on Blender, right? And then he showed us this animation, and this was a big step up for us, right? Because now we can get to this transitionary phase where the female character gets up and starts walking, right? It's a little janky right now at this stage, right? But Randy's a real hard worker. He's really smart, so he's starting to improve this animation over time. Now it's on the ground. The only problem is it's looking a little robotic, right? Sthefon pointed out, I believe, that the problem is the shoulders, right?
Yeah, the shoulders and kind of like the hip, like the top and the bottom, they're disconnected. They don't feel like it's one thing. So it's like when it's walking, it feels, it's someone's controlling the top and then someone's controlling the bottom.
Yes. This was the last walking that Randy had sent us, and there's definitely a lot of improvement. It's a little robotic still, but we'll polish those things out. And then after that, Sthefon started to do the prop design. If you can see here, it's the beer cans. If you go here, a little spoiler. The beer cans are modeled quite well, right? They're not just cylinders anymore. They're actually real beer cans, right? Do you want to go through the thought process or design process for this, Sthefon?
So we just, chose some reference images of some beer cans and we changed them around and, try to give it a little spin of our own and just try to make it look good. I mean, overall, I should have added more detail, like, maybe the can should have been crushed rather than just being a regular old, full cylindrical, beer can. But as of right now, that's more than I could ask for.
Oh yeah, I think it looks really nice. And then afterwards, Sthefon started the wispy effect that we had discussed in the last video.
Yes.
And then after that, I started creating the queue for the memory, right? So the big thing that we need to work on is when are we going to see the memories, right? So I decided to bind it to the door. Right now there is no memory, right? Because there's no queue. But right when they step on the queue, it activates the memory, right? And so this is what all the hologram effect and such, and this is what it looks like. We're deciding that we want to hologram the couch as well, right?
Yeah, so any part that's related to the memory should be essentially through the hologram instance.
Right. And so after that, Sthefon sent me his work in Niagara, and I had finished some of it, and I implemented the Niagara dissipation effect. So finally, Sthefon recreated the blockout in Blender. And so what that means is the blockout that we created with the static brush meshes, Sthefon decided to take that into Blender and fully draw it out.
Yeah, this way we can get the windows and just better shape out things, so that way when I add stuff, I can easily unwrap them and redo them. Obviously, there needs to be some fixing for the UV mapping for some of these things, but overall it's coming together really well.
Yeah, and in my opinion, the scene now is much more complete, right? I mean, aside from some of these default materials, right? All we need after this is the final animations and a few more props, right? A little more noise in the environment. But overall, this feels like a livable space, right?
Yeah. We just need more props to maybe break up some edges here and there to fill in some empty white space, just to make it seem like more like someone had lived there.
Yeah, 100%. So now, some challenges that we have is learning Niagara, right? It's one thing for Sthefon to learn Blender, and one thing for me to, learn Unreal Engine. But it kind of felt like Niagara was like a completely different program, right?
Yeah.
And that in itself, personally, I felt like there wasn't a lot of documentation on Niagara, especially in, it's a drawback when you're working with such a recent version of Unreal Engine, right? We're working in 4.25, which is the latest release version, right? But, with at the cost of such powerful technology and the most up-to-date technology, a lot of people still have to play around with it and learn it in order to teach it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, even just trying to look up, some resources for it, like other tutorials, it was difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult to find good ones.
Definitely, yes. And even if you do find good ones, a lot of them are out of date, maybe like a 4.21, and you have to learn how to transpose these things into newer versions.
Exactly. And the difference between the versions were like really big.
Yeah, definitely. But we managed, right? And we think we did a pretty good job with it. Another challenge that Randy's experiencing is animating in Blender. I think Randy expressed that because there's no kind of a root point, right?
Yeah, there wasn't any the root motion.
Yes. So
it was causing problems for him to translate. That's why the walking animation for the character looks kind of janky here and there, because he didn't have that, and it was causing a lot of problems for him.
Yeah, he's essentially animating it blind because he doesn't have this the floor, right? He doesn't have any references to where the character should be walking towards. So kudos to Randy actually for taking on that challenge. Right, and so we're just going to show you a final preview of what the scene looks like from the player's perspective. They walk in, they see the memory dissipates. Right now I have only the guy dissipating, right? We're playing around with how dissipation looks. This is going to be the wispy effect, which is going to look a lot different when the player is in motion, or the memory is in motion, excuse me. Right. We have these cans, the lighting is starting to come together, and overall, this whole apartment, this whole scene is starting to come together. So, with that being said, thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Be well.